Day 208 of the Ukrainian war map, also known as Russia's devastating invasion of Ukraine. Josie here, and today is another quick update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine today. And as always, I like to start off with the military losses on the Russian side. So we'll just jump across to that now and have a quick look. So the military personnel Russia's losses on the Russian side is currently 54,650. So about 200 more in the last 24-hour reporting period. Armored combat vehicles, an additional 2. Tanks, an additional 2. Artillery, 4. And ships, boats and floats. Nothing else there in terms of that. Also, I have taken the liberty of compiling this following data myself regarding the actual captured and working military hardware from Russia that Ukraine now possesses. Now, a bit of a disclaimer, this is in beta mode at the moment. It will get more and more accurate as the days go by. Currently, there are no planes and ships on here because they mostly get destroyed in the air or in the sea, although there are a few of them, and I'm very likely to, in the long term, add them to the list. More subcategories will get added as the days go by, and I promise it will make even more sense in the long run as well. Then we move back to the map, where we start out in the Sumy region, where it wouldn't be a typical week or month if Russia didn't decide to fire some shells at some meaningless regional farm land targets. Now, about 100 pigs in all got destroyed or eliminated here. Ukrainian pigs, that is, not the Russian variant. Then we move across to Kharkiv, where after the liberation last week, all of that happening there, the Ukrainian forces continue to capture newly found Russian hardware, like this modern T-90M tank. It appears to have been abandoned after throwing a track or a tread, you can see there. Now, these are quote-unquote state-of-the-art in terms of what Russia can provide for tanks. And guess how much these are? Now, these cost about $4.5 million US dollars. So quite pricey, but it's not just the price tag that's involved for any weaponry, it's the time taken to build it. Then we have another look at some further loot in the Ukrainian Oblast as well. Another Russian loss in this Oblast, a T-72B3 tank in good condition. Now, the B3 variant was sort of a modified, upgraded version in 2016. So these are very good tanks to get. And there was also another capture of a Mr. S, so a self-propelled gun or a howitzer. So basically these things look like a tank with a howitzer on top, less armor and better at longer range distances. And lastly, I do like the interesting things. So the Russian forces lost a unique MTLB in the Kharkiv Oblast as well, which features an NSVT HMG. All these acronyms, but a HMG is just a heavy machine gun. Oh, and a chair to boot on this one, with a garden chair mount on top. You'll see that too. Then we'll move down across to the Donbas, like I say, the ever-contested Donbas, where Russian forces suffered devastating losses of manpower and equipment in their fight for the eastern land in the last day. Now, we'll start in the northeastern pocket, where there's early reports where it's said that Lysychansk is said to be fully under Ukrainian control, which is just insane, if that's true. There was quite the fight for it a number of months ago, then Russia eventually took it. They weren't able to extend this location much further out though. Now, do take it with a grain of salt. This may indeed have been leaked sensitive information as well, with ongoing battles. And I have looked everywhere for it, and I haven't found any additional confirmations, although what we do have is footage of Ukrainian soldiers driving through the village of Bilahorivka. So you've got the footage there and it's right here. So again, the map is always behind the real time. It just has to be. That's the way that it is for multiple reasons. But we can certainly see a push to Lysychansk there. So this is very interesting. Oh, and it doesn't hurt to have a look. The date map will actually show you that push in the last day or two. There we go. Just pushes all the way through in the last probably 36 hours. Now I'll move around a little bit where the Ukrainian forces continue to make advances around Lyman. So right here where the Oinky pigs are, and we'll have a look again at the date map. So we'll go back and forward, and that is really quite the front line for Lyman or Lyman there. Although the fighting continues somewhat fiercely, watch this space of Lyman and we'll see what happens soon. Then we'll move out again and look further into the eastern side of the Donbas. So this has been a popular town recently, Svartov, where the Russian forces are digging their heels down and basically entrenching themselves, fortifying positions. It's sort of like their new defensive line. And there are, having said all of that, there are some reports of explosions in this location, eliminating 200 Russian troops. And I certainly look forward to more details on this section soon. And always bear in mind, we get these ongoing tidbits amongst ongoing counteroffensives. So we get the tidbits, but we don't always get the full picture straight away. It's just one of those things. Then we'll move across to the central front line of the town of Bakhmut, where there has been some intense action and shelling overnight into the city's region there, which is strange in a way, depending on how you prefer to look at it. But the Russian forces really focus on shelling these frontline regions from a distance, almost non-stop, particularly, certainly in places like this, and Soledar, that sort of thing. And yet, right next door, we have Ukrainians pushing further and further into the Donbas. Effectively, a break-in of front lines right next door. Then we'll move out a little bit. Got some more photos here of Melitopol. Always a lot of action here in Russian-occupied Melitopol at the moment, where we've got a photo of new explosions at an airfield here in Melitopol, perhaps this one here. Now, this could have been a HIMARS strike, for instance, but much of what's happening in the Melitopol region, or the action, so to speak, a lot of it seems to be done by pro-Ukrainian partisans living in the region as well. Like with this next video, where Ukrainian partisans targeted the Russian-installed head of the State Bureau of Investigation of the People's Militia. The after effects of some type of small-yield explosive device can be seen here as well. And in the greater unoccupied region of Zaporizhia, around here, the Russian army launched at least 8 missiles against infrastructure objects or facilities, typically on power or hydro dam related civilian infrastructure. Got another photo here. Information is limited. This is quite recent information there. Now, something else happened in another region, and I'm sure to make a snide comment about that soon. But what we'll do now is move across to the Kherson counteroffensive there that's been going for a number of weeks now, late August. Starting with this photo where you can see various contact points on the front line. This map is just an interesting, more timely perspective of the directional and massive pushes that the UAF, so the Ukrainian Armed Forces, are currently administrating in this region right now. We've also got a photo of an explosion reported at a Russian military base in Kherson, near to the city. Now, the next thing I've got here, it's not exactly a real photo, but the Ukrainian Armed Forces said that at 8 a.m. this morning, Ukrainian time, of course, a Russian Su-25 was shot down by Ukrainian anti-aircraft missiles. Can't wait for a photo for this one, but it was sort of plastered all over the main Ukraine military websites and things. And yeah, it's always worth a mention, even though I don't have actual footage or a photograph. And also in Kherson and the larger region, in the morning there were mass checks carried out by Russian forces of houses and apartments. They were looking for weapons, ammunitions, explosives, all sorts of things like that. Apparently they weren't even checking documentation of people, which is what they would normally do. But I can't tell you how much the impracticality of this methodology is, where they have potentially hundreds of thousands of houses in the region to check for. It's just an exercise in futility. Again, like I said yesterday, they're getting a bit paranoid. Now, just lastly, in terms of the outlook for Kherson at the moment, and really the Kherson frontline in particular, is it appears, as per an ISW report, that the Russian forces are likely retreating to more defensible positions in Kherson to avoid the collapse as they saw in Kharkiv recently. Which means the Russian forces have taken a hit to their confidence levels, in truth, with what they've seen happen on the north side of the country. And when they fortify and take more defensible positions, that just happens to mean more ground is taken by the Ukrainian forces. And then we'll move across to the Mykolaiv region, or the Oblast, where a Russian missile strike hit an industrial zone of Pivdino at the nuclear power plant location, just 1,000 feet or 300 meters from the reactors. Now, this is interesting to me because just a couple of days ago, Putin did express his upset with the Kharkiv counteroffensive and said he would start hitting infrastructure now, which he warned of, which apparently includes more civilian nuclear power plant infrastructure. That's just a bit odd. But, I mean, he's really got to make up his mind on this one, because Russia also said the other day that withdrawing from Kharkiv was a gesture of goodwill. So which is it, Putin? That's some serious cognitive dissonance right there. You can't have both. Of course, Russia tries to save face, particularly with the Kharkiv pullback from the Russian forces, because they weren't expecting it and they said it was a gesture of goodwill. Also, lastly, in Mykolaiv, there was a drone. So a drone shot down by the Ukrainian forces. A so-called cartograph reconnaissance UAV. Now, they say shot down. That could mean many things. I don't see any bullet holes here, but it could have been an electronic warfare gun. They look super futuristic, and apparently Russian drones are quite vulnerable to this type of gun or electronic warfare. Now we'll move across to some of the news really quickly, and I'll try to wrap this one up a bit faster today with everything that's going on. So Poland, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania have banned the entry of Russians into their countries. So the Russians won't be let in, even if they have a tourist visa issued by another Schengen state, which basically means the rest of Western Europe. So it does appear Russians won't be crossing these neighbouring borders anytime soon to purchase goods from these countries that are no longer available in the heavily sanctioned country of Russia. So we're talking laptops, mobiles, TVs, cars, you name it, the Russian population will have difficulties with obtaining it. Oh, and I should have mentioned washing machines too. That's a bit of an ongoing joke with this channel at the moment, if you've been watching. And in other news, UK. So the UK intelligence has said that Russia has likely lost 4 combat jets in Ukraine within the last 10 days. So this is quite a big deal for heaps of reasons. So the first one is they're quite expensive. They're not easily reproducible. The pilots that get eliminated within the jets take many, we really are talking many years of training, sorties, all sorts of things. To be really a proficient pilot, apparently we're talking 10 to 20 years. So of these high-end fighter planes. So any single loss is always quite the big deal. Now, next up, in other news, I've touched on this news piece quite a bit now over the last few days, but the Ukrainian General Staff advised Russia sent 400 convicts to fight in Ukraine, reportedly 400 prisoners from Tambov, so that's an oblast sort of south of Moscow, around this region here. And yes, so sent to fight in Ukraine. And these prisoners are grossly untrained slaves, basically. Now, I know some people have been saying Russia is super clever in killing two birds with one stone. So, for example, when taking this whole approach of filling their military ranks with prisoners only to have them eliminated, consequently not sucking up as much social funding for prisons. But I feel this is actually quite an inaccurate view of what's going on. So here's the problem I have with that. First of all, you need a competent military, otherwise you'll lose ground, just like we saw today in the Donbas region. Secondly, what if that prisoner survives and comes home wounded for life? That's actually a greater strain on the social system of Russia. And lastly, prisons make a profit. So prisons actually produce for society. True story. So prisons provide extremely cheap labor when outsourcing their low-skilled labor force to corporations to produce products. Like furniture, that is a big one there. And I'll even round this spiel off with a bit of a real Russian example. So just 2 months ago, the Russian system of correctional labor camps said they have the resources, skills, manpower, and determination to replace IKEA. So IKEA Furniture, the company which recently left the country, by utilizing the prison's prisoners. So in the end, maybe some Russian political leader believes they are doing something really clever, but I would venture to say that they are instead killing one bird with two completely unrelated stones, and that is just highly ineffective. And in some further news, Ukrainian forces have built many wooden NASAMS models around the front lines. Now, these are both Norwegian and US produced short and medium range ground-based air defense systems, which are highly capable defense platforms. Now, these are apparently in use already, the wooden decoys, not the real ones. But Ukraine won't actually get these for the real ones for another 30 to 60 days, unless there's something we don't know. So a lot of the time I'm finding every day that high-end weapon systems delivered to Ukraine sometimes arrive a bit before the official date or the announced date to catch the Russian forces off guard. So maybe there is one or two operating there already. But that's purely speculative, that last part I said. And now just a bit of a lighter side of news, just to round off the day with. So where the front lines of the war are in stark contrast to cities like Kyiv and Odessa, where there is dancing to Hava Nagila and Ukrainian songs to celebrate the successful recent Ukrainian counteroffensives, particularly in the north there. The music here is very jolly, and people are looking pretty chill, pretty happy. I'll make sure, I'll try to put a link below. Sometimes I forget to do such a thing. Let me know in the comments if I don't, if you'd like to listen to the music. I think you'll like it. It's very, very high energy, upbeat, really nice stuff. And joyful. So that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment, subscribe. Ignore the trolls. They're starting to come back out in full force, it seems, at the moment, if you want to. And I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. And I really appreciate all the comments. You might notice me in the comment section quite a bit. I do my best to reply, that kind of thing where I can. So yeah, keep engaged there. I enjoy it too. Cheers.